It's time to talk about the Fantasy Basketball Waiver Wire. You've got Kon Knueppels, you got Cowards, you got it all. Have we got fears? Well, we probably don't, but I just want to put it in because it goes with Coward. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I have baked a special donut just for you. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. You double bangers, you everydayers, you hear every day, you double banging every day. That is what I want to see. We're doing a waiver wire show. We'll do a preview for Tuesday coming up later on. Just some news that has just dropped. I think you probably know what I'm going to say, but guess what? Anthony Edwards, he's out. Hamstring, at least 2 weeks. Wow, They're actually, well, two things you thought that I was going to say here. Which one do you think I'm going to do first? They're actually keeping him out at least 2 weeks. It's amazing. That's progress. I'd like it to be a little bit longer, but that's progress in terms of managing this injury properly. And secondly, what was that about? Never gets hurt. Never gets hurt. Just he's too tough. He loves the game. Plays through everything. This is literally nothing against Anthony Edwards, but it's also, again, if you are in a situation where you prioritize a player that you believe is worse, that you don't think is as good as the other guy necessarily, but your only reason is that he doesn't get hurt, it's just not real. It's not a thing. Players get hurt because they get hurt. Yes, there are certain situations that we know and we talk about, but he's not Wolverine, man. I know he plays for Minnesota, but he's not Wolverine. And it's shocking. It's annoying that he's out. It's frustrating. But it's another data point to show you that what happened last season, what happened 2 years ago, it's interesting. We look at it all. It doesn't just Control-C, Control-V. Someone's shooting percentages don't Control-C, Control-V. From one game to the next, from 1 year to the next. Their steal numbers don't Control-C to Control-V. Their health statuses don't copy and paste. It just doesn't happen. And after all of the data, continual data, the most unrepeatable, the least year-to-year correlation in any category, fantasy categories or just real life stuff, is games played. It is consistently the case. And it happened again. Which, again, should not be a surprise to anyone that watches this show, I would hope. And I know, but he got a track record of staying healthy. That's true. That did happen. But it doesn't mean that it will. Let's talk waiver wire. We'll talk about replacements for Anthony Edwards a little bit later on. We're just going to go through some of the most added guys and see whether there's anything that's interesting here. You'll be shocked. Nay, surprised. Nay, none of those things at all to know that the most added player, up 87% on Basketball Monster, is Cedric Coward, the chicken. A cuckoo-ca-cha! A cuckoo-ca-cha! 31% rostered only, which is an indication that's interesting. He's up to 99% on Basketball Monster, but 31 on Yahoo. Is that how dead the leagues are over there because of their stupidity in introducing these formats? I don't know. But only 31% rostered. So just have a quick check if he's available in your league, because he's obviously the hottest pickup. Now, I know people go, no one ever thinks that he's going to maintain this shooting number. And I know, no one, if you ever ask anyone, hey, will he shoot this well? No one will say yes. That's not the point of bringing it up, is that people just get excited and they see someone going off, but they don't know that he shot that well. He's a baller. Look how good he is. They don't know necessarily that he's hit 73% of his threes with an 88 true shooting and 92% from the line. They just see the big numbers and go, ooh, that's exciting. That won't hold. That'll cut in half, the shooting numbers. He was an excellent shooter in college. Absolutely he was. And he maintained that. Despite shooting this number, he's not taking that many threes. He's also at an incredibly high steal rate. Very high steal rate in college. But 1.7 steals in 23 minutes is not a number that's probably going to sustain. He's rolling at like Dyson Daniels-esque numbers. Not quite, but close. His rebounds and assists per 36 are fine. 3.7 and 5.8. You like those numbers. They're not bad. He's not going to play 36 minutes, though. So overall, part of the reason why we do harp on that high steal number and high shooting is that is what is driving value. If he didn't shoot those numbers, he'd be like a 14-point per game scorer with 4 rebounds and 2 assists. Maybe you get 1.3 steals, which is okay. But also, we need now to find how he gets 30 minutes. And maybe he does. There's a lot of guys out, and maybe he overtakes KCP. Maybe he overtakes Jalen Wells. But then you've got Milk and Pippen that are going to come back at some point. So I don't have a concern of adding Cedric Coward. I think when we look at it overall, the likelihood of Coward remaining as a must-roster 12-team league guy is pretty low. Because often when you shoot this well, then you'll have a slump where you shoot 30%, and then you don't get a steal for 1 or 2 weeks, and it will fall back down. Like, I've got him at the moment projected 26 minutes a night rest of season. I'm not confident in that, though. And that's like 13 points, 5 rebounds. His 3-point volume is not super high. For a guy that's shooting this well, he's not shooting that much. Only 40% of his shots have come from deep. He's taken a total of, he's 8 from 11 from 3 in 68 minutes. It's not very many. It can easily go awry. The next most added player, Slamming Sammy Merrill, also just on the back of really strong 3-point shooting. I do think that when you see Garland back, that will impact him and he won't be rosterable for the time being. Go for it. Hami Jaquez, the only guy injured there at the moment is Hero, and Jaquez is playing a huge role off the bench. Now, Spo can change his mind at any point, and we've seen that a million times as well. But for the time being, I like having Jaquez and I like having Tre Johnson. Tre Johnson is on the ascend. He's moving up. I wasn't going to call him a come-upper, but, you know, he's a come-upper. Is he going to... He's a little bit of a concern in terms of his shooting numbers. They're not as extreme as Coward's, but they're high, like 44% from 3. And when you compare and contrast that to his college numbers, and yeah, he had to do a lot in college because of the structure of that team. But he doesn't do much in other areas. He's blocking shots at the moment, which I don't really feel is real. But I can see how he plays 32 minutes. That's pretty easy, and his usage is strong. He's going to be reliant. Like, I think overall he will be worse than what Jordan Poole was for the Wizards, because Poole was able to give you assists. And I don't know that Tre can do that. But yeah, he's a solid add. And then Nikhil Alexander-Walker, while the Hawks are banged up, and you got no Jalen Johnson and no Kristaps Porzingis, whether that's a long-term or not, or no Ricochet, it's not. But for the time being, one of those guys being out means Alexander-Walker has that value. The most added players on Yahoo, Coward's at the top of that list, but they've got some other names there. Ajay Mitchell. Similarly, and this is the story that happens literally every year. A player randomly jumps up, shoots the lights out, usage goes through the roof because 4 rotation players are out bol, and then they go crazy. And I love Mitchell. I think he's a really good player, and I'd love to see him in a large role. It's just really hard to 240 game our way into that. So by all means, let's do it right now. But it's not going to be a long-term thing. Tre Jones is just a guy we add, and then we drop when we see Kobe White return. Dylan Harper, the 3rd most added player there. Again, at the moment, I love what I'm seeing. But what happens when Fox returns? You might bet in his talent over Steph Castles. I do. But I don't know whether the coach does. If the coach... He just looks so good out there. So I'm more like... Compare him to Tre Johnson. Johnson's got the easier path to minutes than Dylan Harper, but Harper's the better player. Harper's the better fantasy option. He can do more things. Better rebounder, better steals guy, better assist guy. Worse shooter, but the path is a little cloudier. And when Fox returns, I don't know what they do. I would hope they keep him at 30 minutes. Andre Drummond, one of the most hated players. I'm going to guess that's just solely to stream in today because Joel Embiid is out. That's fine, but don't worry too much more. And then Ryan Rollins. It looks like Porter will be back pretty soon, but for the short term, you have Rollins. And honestly, when Porter is back, I would hold Rollins just to see what happens. Because we've seen Glenn Rivers move back and forward between the starters often, and someone gets hot, he keeps them in, or he likes what they're doing on that day, or whatever Glenn happens in his brain. There is something to be said for maybe on that one, the Ryan Roller ones, maybe just holding that for a day, a game, 2 games when Porter returns. We'll come and talk about dropped players, some other names, some injury replacements, all that stuff coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on that action with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game, which impossible with the NBA start times, but even if you do, you can jump in and live bet. You can check what's happening at halftime. You can check the flow of a game. You can check the trends of a game. You can check who's hot and place the bets on those players. Live same-game parlays as well. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. With basketball season officially here, getting to see your favorite team live is awesome, but it's been a pain. Getting those tickets with surging prices and fees and hidden fees and queues and all that sort of stuff. Game Time takes that stuff away. The zone deals are a game changer. You get cheaper tickets just by choosing an area to sit versus a specific seat. You can even find NBA tickets for under $25. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. The code is LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. We're doing a waiver wire show here. Let's talk about some of the most dropped players across the NBA using our numbers at Basketball Monster, using the numbers over at Yahoo as well. Who is the number one most dropped player? We can see whether we agree or disagree with these. Number one is Jalen Wells. Cool. See you later. I don't know whether Coward will overtake him. To me, he plays more of a 2/3, Jalen Wells. Coward, to me, is more of a 3/4 with his extremely long wingspan, but I guess at a pinch you could play Coward at the 2, but it doesn't matter because you've got KCP anyway. So dropping Jalen Wells. In fact, this is the segment that we do the blanket jack, isn't it? I'm sure you've all done a blanket jack before. Get that garbage out of here! Jalen Wells. See ya. Bye-bye. Jay Huff. What is going on? With Indiana, the centers, they're all over the place. Huff will have a big game, I am sure, but it could be Bradley, it could be Wiseman, it could be Jackson, it could be Toppin, it could be whoever. There's just nothing that's worth holding on to there. People drop Ben Shepherd, and I wouldn't have, but I understand why. He was bad. He's not a very good player. He's not a good permanent producer. All those things are true. But now Nembhard doesn't look like he's going to be long-term. I don't know about Mathurin. Everyone's still out. The fact that he's a starting guard, playing pseudo-point guard, getting 33 minutes, I will hold that. Now, the difference, I guess, here is they don't play until Wednesday. So if you want the spot, maybe Nembhard even returns then. Probably not, but maybe. So, I guess if you're making calculated longer-term risks, would I drop Ben Shepherd for Tre Johnson? Yes. Would I drop him for Cedric Coward? Probably yes. Would I drop him for Jaime Jaquez? Yes. Someone who I can get semi-equivalent value, but maybe stretching longer-term. Don Barlow, the opportunity for him was there today, and he's out, so see you later. And then people drop Obert Toppin. I want to hear the designation on Toppin and how long he is out for, because their centers aren't coming back. They're not getting better. So Toppin's probably going to have a sizable enough role when he returns that I likely would have held on to him. Who has been dropped on Yahoo? Who are the top 5 most dropped names? Davion Mitchell. People lost patience real quick there, didn't they? Now, I understand that there's a lot of 10-teamers on Yahoo, so that's fine. You don't roster him in 10-team leagues, no problem at all. In 12s, it is getting to the stage where if you wanted to move on, who cares? They've got other options there. He is not a super good player. The shooting can be up and down, and he's had a lot of foul trouble. But I would have tried to hold. The next most dropped player, Yegor Dioman. Yeah, easy. I don't know why he's been as highly rostered as he has been. He's still coming off the bench. There's a lot of guards to get minutes. He hasn't attempted a single 2-pointer all season. He's just not doing enough. And maybe it comes, but I don't think the upside's high enough to deal with that. Trey Mann, the third most dropped player. How? How was he even rostered in enough spots to be the third most dropped player? I guess people looked to him with Brandon Miller out? I don't know. Ryan Kalkbrenner, that's a massive overreaction. Do not drop Ryan Kalkbrenner at this point. And then Brad Beal. Yeah, you can go ahead and drop the big fella, Braddles. What I like to do with this part of the show is look for players that I can see that are available in leagues that shouldn't be, like top 100 short to long-term guys who just shouldn't be available. Now, credit to everyone playing fantasy at the moment. There's not a huge amount of these guys around. But I'm just going to mention these names quickly. They just need to be rostered. Donte DiVincenzo, Tobias Harris, the Dominatrix, VJ Edgecombe. You'll say, how is Edgecombe away? He's up to 58% rostered. So he was at 49% opening night. He's up to 58. So that suggests that there were 10% of leagues who were not adding him, who are active now as well. So let's see what happens with Coward's numbers and that moving forward, because we're trying to get a gauge on who is actually active in Yahoo. He's up to like 60%. Keyshawn George and Tamani Kamara. All 5 of those guys are sitting in 40% plus of leagues on Yahoo and shouldn't be. So just a cursory glance, check whether they are available, and if they are, they belong on teams. In your league, they need to be on teams. We also like to do at this point guys that can be dropped. I call it droppable. Does that mean that you have to drop them? No. And again, largely, I think people have done a pretty good job here. I'm using a 70% cutoff of this on our Basketball Monster advanced number. And if someone's rostered in 50%, I'm not going to argue a huge amount. But if they're sitting at over 70 and they're in a situation where I don't think it makes sense for standard formats, I'm going to tell you that they can go. And there's only really 2 names that apply to. Brook Lopez, I do not understand why he is rostered in as many leagues as he is.
Get that garbage out of here!
We all love Brook. But why was he being drafted? Why is he being held onto? What are we actually doing? I do not see any need for this. Now, people have reacted to Klay Thompson, and he's finally under 70% now. Who was the other one that was incredibly... Young Hun Sen was at 50% on opening night. That's obviously changed. Eve Misi is at 77. Okay. Not only is he hurt, he's not good. And I know that I had... No matter what player you talk about, there's always be someone who has a differing opinion. That's great. I love that. But it's like, he had a really good rookie season. Did he? No, he didn't. He had a below average rookie season who I don't think there's really any upscale translatability for it. But again, difference of opinions. But people have just latched on to Misi here. Looney's out. I guess he's stashing him in IL. It's a little bit different. But there's just no need, I don't think, in any sort of standard format, any sort of league that's 150. When I say 150, it's like a placeholder for a standard 12-team league, 10 starters, 3 bench, which is technically 156 players. Add some ILs in there and you get a little bit deeper. But that's what I mean. All right. 130 is a standard 10. 150 is a standard 12. 175 is a standard 14. 200 is like a deep 16-team league. There's just no need in a 150-player league for Misi to be rostered. I see no benefit. If you went to go to a top 175 guy, honestly, maybe not. Not even sure he's there, to be honest. Not even sure he fits that bill. What about some hotties? These are all guys that, so far this season, since we're a week in, these guys are in the top 100. So, does it make sense? We've already talked Sam Merrill a little bit. He's the 48th ranked player per game. Yep, okay, we love it. Grayson Allen. You do roster Grayson Allen and his teammate Dylan Brooks, 55th and 62nd. For the time being, until Jalen Green returns and we see what happens. And then when Green returns, I'd be more than happy to hold Brooks and Allen because Dylan Brooks just thinks it's his team, so he's taking every shot. But we'll see how that all goes. Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green together. We'll see how that goes. But Allen and Brooks, yeah, they need to be on rosters. And these are all guys that are available in over 65% of Yahoo leagues, by the way. Jerami Grant's a 73rd ranked player. I did not see this coming for Grant. He's doing it on the back of volume scoring and not a lot else. I'm pretty skeptical of that being a long-term thing, but he's here and he's a top 100 player and I'm bringing it to your attention. I would not rush to add him like I would add Merrill, Allen, and even Brooks over Grant, but there's something there for the time being. And then the Hong Kong mattress, Kaysen Wallace, is the 77th ranked player. He is largely a category league guy versus a points league guy. His steals are the thing that drives everything. If you get anything else, it's a bonus. I know that there are a lot of people who believe that he is guaranteed, absolutely just locked in all season long. I am not one of those. He could be, if you are just desperately chasing steals. But when players return, he might play 28 minutes and average 8 points. I hope it's more. I think he's really good, much like Ajay Mitchell. But the opportunities aren't always there. And then you're going to have Mitchell stepping up, trying to cut into what Wallace is doing. So for the time being, yes. Long term, I'm not fully convinced that that's going to be a thing for Wallace. I'm not fully there. We're going to come back and talk about some other names and some injury replacements in a sec. Today's episode, though, it's brought to you by a new sponsor. Yeah. If you are a business owner, you would know this truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now The average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's SAD. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. It removes the bottlenecks and the busy work that slows down teams from onboarding, payroll, IT access. It all runs automatically and perfectly in sync. And it's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything that they touch. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnba. That is rippling.com/lockedonnba. That's rippling.com/lockedonnba for 6 months free. Today's episode is also brought to you by Monarch. Most of us can't name all of our financial accounts, what we're worth, our 401ks and savings and investments. It can be easy to lose track, and that means you're leaving money on the table. And that's why Monarch is something you should be considering using, the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. You can organize your accounts and track your spending and get a better handle of your investments. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com. The code is LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. So we are here talking waiver wire. Let's take a look at some injury replacement players. There was news today, and we don't know that he's out yet, but Zion Williamson is on the injury report questionable with a foot bruise. If Zion is out, I believe that the depressed penis will start in his spot, and then you'll get, that's Sadiq Bey, and then you'll probably get Derek Queen starting at center, I guess. That's how I assume it will go. So both Queen and Bey can be short-term streamers. Queen probably has a little bit more categorical upside. These are guys that are currently out at the moment. Luka Doncic is out for at least a week. Jake LaRavia didn't start, but now Marcus Smart is maybe injured, and Gabe Vincent is also injured. So LaRavia got big minutes in that Lakers game, and if the shot fell, then the line would have been good. I like adding Jake LaRavia. We talked at the start about Anthony Edwards being out. Donte DiVincenzo is the easy add. I thought that they would give Terrence Shannon an opportunity. No, they did not. He played fewer minutes somehow. Now, that doesn't preclude Terrence Shannon from doing more, but it wasn't great. It wasn't great. If you're in a deeper league, Bones Highland could play 20 minutes. Maybe we get Rob Dillingham in there at some point, and then Mike Conley, but that's deeper leagues. I like Bones, the 5-minute man, as a deeper league add here with Anthony Edwards out. DiVincenzo is your guy. Jaden McDaniels is your second guy if he's available. Nas Reed gets a bump as well, but they're all rostered generally. Benedict Mathurin. I don't really know the update on him yet. We're still waiting. It just doesn't sound super serious, but doesn't sound great. And with everybody else out, home movie specialist, home movie aficionado, Ray J. Dennis is probably worth looking at. Dennis was great. Defensive stats, assists, scored well. This is incredibly short term for Ray J, much like his level of fame, but DVD sales still go. He is worth a short-term stream, especially if you're looking deeper. In Atlanta, well, it depends on Porzingis and Jalen Johnson and Zach Ricochet, but the night watchman, Mohamed Wayuge, he is definitely the stream. If one of Johnson and Porzingis is out, we look and it does become Gay time. He has been very good. Deeper leagues, you go to the big fella Asa Newell, but Mohamed Gay becomes a 12-team league option. And then with Kobe White out, we've already talked Tre Jones, but Fanapants Kevin Huerter is available everywhere. I like Kevin Huerter in 12-team leagues for the short term, and there's a possibility for today, and I don't know whether this is true or not just at the moment, but Josh Giddey might be out. And that's even more for Kevin Huerter to do. Let's go through some last final names. What about the Npitsu? Npitsu. I've got to get that right. My Japanese, I'm not a Japanese speaker. I'm not sure if you knew that of me. Npitsu. Rui Hachimura. I said I liked Jake LaRavia. I do. I also, I just was a little sneaky there because I knew that I had the Npitsu coming on this one with Rui. He is an ad while Doncic and LeBron and everyone else is out. Steve Adams is probably worth looking at. I'm not super excited about his upside. We'll see if they continue to give him 26 minutes a night. He's a field goal percentage and rebounds guy, which might work for you. But for others, it's not one of those ones where you got to have him no matter what your team is and no matter what it looks like. For some of you, you'd be like, what am I doing here? What is the point of this? Because he has so many detriments. Low scoring, low threes, bad, terrible free throws. Not a big blocks guy as a big man either. And then we go to Charlotte, where it does seem like Brandon Miller's escaped serious injury, which is great. And Colin Sexton had already replaced Kon Knueppel in the starting lineup. We don't know which one of these guys is going to stay in that starting group. But Sexton should be grabbed, but so should Knueppel. But I will say this about Connie. He's only 17% rostered, so available everywhere. Much like Cedric Coward, he's getting by on absolutely elite shooting. 11 of 19 now. It's not 73%, it's 55%. But his other numbers in 30 minutes a night, they're not very good. 1.3 assists, 4.7 rebounds. It's driven by elite shooting. Now, he is, I believe, an elite shooter. Same as I believe Coward is. But I don't really know what else the big areola is giving us. So, add Sexton, sure. Consider Knueppel, no problem. But as soon as Miller is back, or Knueppel cools off, we don't really have that much there, I don't think. Like, if I want to talk longer term, do I prefer a Dylan Harper or a Tre Johnson? Yeah, I do. I like Knueppel. I had him up the top of this draft class. By the way, this draft class, unbelievably good. Derek Queen, I think, is worth looking at. I talked already about Zion maybe being out, but even if Zion isn't out, Queen played 35 minutes last game. I hate the combination of Queen and Zion together. Queen's lack of shooting and lack of defense is a real problem, but in isolation, he can be a really good fantasy player. So they might just be forced into giving him big minutes here. And then lastly, D'Angelo Russell. Yeah, he was out of consideration. I was like, drop him. I never wanted to draft him. And then last game, he went crazy. I honestly don't know what's going to do. I always find D'Angelo a really hard guy to get a handle on. I thought I had a handle on him. I thought, hey, he's not very good. They're not going to play him very much. Don't draft him. All true. And then the next game, he became the sixth man, played big minutes, took the most shots on the team, which won't be a thing, by the way. He won't take the most shots on the team every game. So if you want to go and add D'Angelo Russell, that's okay. I really, really do not see 30 minutes a night off the bench for D'Angelo Russell sticking as an every night thing. Although they need to do something. They very clearly need to do something on that team. Even though they had a good win against Toronto, things are still a bit iffy. But now the next thing that's in Dallas that's just happened as well, Derek Lively is now doubtful. So Anthony Davis has to play center, which means that D'Angelo Russell is going to do more. And then Deeper League's Max Christie is also in a better position to do more. And that is your waiver wire show. We'll have a streaming show for Tuesday coming up, and of course a recap of 11 games on Monday coming up. Also, you subscribe and you never miss it. You hype it up on the mobile app. You can leave comments, you double bang. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.